When I was a kid, I was obsessed with something called zombies. From video games to movies, I watched almost all of them. Some of them had me dying of laughter, and some of them scared me to death and gave me nightmares. But there's one movie whose story is still stuck in my head to this day. Its plot is terrifying, and it all takes place in a closed space, like an airplane cabin. It combines fear of flying, fear of heights, and fear of zombies all at once. Our movie starts with a flight headed to Paris. The weather is a bit stormy. The scene shifts to the pilots, and we hear them talking about a special government cargo that was loaded at the last minute, along with an armed guard to protect it. The people responsible for this cargo are Dr. Bennett and Dr. Sebastian. We see Dr. Bennett and Sebastian arguing with the victim's husband. The woman is infected with a virus that brings the dead back to life, and she turns out to be the special cargo that they secretly smuggled in order to run experiments on her. Dr. Bennett starts threatening the husband, forcing him to stay silent until the cargo safely reaches the lab so his personal project can succeed. The movie then begins to introduce us to the passengers on this flight. We're shown two people handcuffed together, most likely an intelligence agent on a mission to deliver a special prisoner to Paris. We see a couple talking about the activities they want to do when they arrive in Paris, like shopping and surfing. There's also a golfer with his jealous wife in first class. The weather keeps getting worse. The pilot asks the passengers to stay in their seats and fasten their seatbelts. Because of the storm and the turbulence, the strap holding the special cargo comes loose, and the guard is injured in the leg when shipping crates fall on him. The scene cuts to the Pentagon, where we see a military officer with several officials discussing Dr. Bennett's crimes, making biological weapons, illegal cloning research, and how he's now planning a project to create a virus that brings the dead back to life. After the turbulence, the wife who's infected with the virus escapes from the crate, terrified and shaking. The armed guard sees her and, without hesitation, shoots her, which causes a power failure and knocks out communications. The victim starts begging the guard for help, and here we learn that she's a scientist from the Medcon lab and was a victim of Dr. Bennett's experiments. The guard tells her to come out and promises he won't shoot her, but as soon as she shows herself, he kills her. Within seconds, the guard realizes that her body is no longer lying on the floor. It's gone. A moment later, the victim attacks him after turning into a zombie. The pilot asks his co-pilot to go check on the cargo. The agent gets up to take the special prisoner to the bathroom, but because of turbulence, he gets hit on the head and loses consciousness, which gives the prisoner the chance to break free from his handcuffs and escape. Meanwhile, the co-pilot goes to check on the cargo with Dr. Sebastian and the victim's husband. The husband is shocked to find the crate open, which makes him panic and beg them all to leave the compartment. But it's already too late. On their way out, they run into the wife and the guard, who attack Dr. Sebastian and the husband, while the co-pilot manages to escape. The co-pilot rushes to Dr. Bennett, shouting at him, "What have you done?" Then he runs to the pilot and begs him to land the plane immediately or they're all going to die. But the pilot refuses because of the storm. The pilot asks a sky marshal to go check what's going on. Orders come into the Canadian Air Traffic Control Tower from High Command and the CDC, telling them not to allow Concorde Flight 239 to land or even circle, and that it must return to US airspace. Paul, the Sky Marshal, starts questioning Bennett about the cargo. Here we learn that he's not only responsible for protecting the plane, but also works with the CDC. But Bennett dodges his questions. While the agent and Paul search the compartment, zombie Sebastian attacks them, which leads to a random shot being fired that goes up to the upper deck and pierces a flight attendant, causing panic among the passengers. While the flight attendant is explaining the chaos to the pilot, the wife attacks her from behind. Things start getting worse. Peter's girlfriend is attacked in the bathroom from behind the mirrors, and when he tries to save her, he gets bitten too in the middle of the chaos. Even the flight attendant doesn't escape being bitten. The bite victims walk out while they're still conscious, which will later cause the virus to spread much faster among the rest of the passengers. The survivors start shouting at Bennett, demanding that he explain what's happening because he's the mastermind behind this disaster. The agent, Paul, and the golfer begin trying to survive on the plane. The movie cuts back to the Pentagon. There we learn from Dr. Bennett's personal notes that he wants this virus as a biological weapon, to keep soldiers fighting even after suffering fatal wounds, and to release an enemy prisoner infected with the virus so he can infect his fellow soldiers and make them kill each other. The The military officer says Flight 239 must be destroyed before it reaches populated areas. While Bennett, the golfer, and some of the survivors try to stay alive, Bennett starts to confess that he was just following orders and that they told him it was an experiment to extend life. The co-pilot gets bitten, and the bigger disaster is that the pilot lets him into the cockpit, which causes the virus to be transmitted to him too, meaning now no one is really in control of the plane. Bennett stumbles and falls into the lower compartment, hanging by a cable like a feast for all the zombies down there. The plane starts to descend, leaving the survivors in a race against time to reach the cockpit before it crashes. The agent Burroughs builds a bomb to blow open and clear the lower corridor of all the zombies so they can reach the cockpit. Fighter jets appear, circling Flight 239, preparing to shoot it down if they don't get any response over the radio. But before the agent and the survivors reach the cockpit, the golfer, who has been bitten along with his wife, commits suicide by opening the plane's door, killing all the zombies with him. Zombie Bennett gets sucked into the right engine, causing it to fail. The agent and the prisoner reach the cockpit, and just as the fighter jets are about to fire, the prisoner answers the radio and repeats that they're alive. Even so, a missile is launched at the plane. While they're trying to regain control, a mountain suddenly appears in front of them, and the lower part of the plane crashes into it, sending them down into the Mojave Desert. The agent, a flight attendant, the prisoner, and Paul survive the crash in a Hollywood-style final scene. But that's not the end. The real disaster is that the plane didn't completely break apart, and a group of zombies are still alive. And we see them heading toward Las Vegas.